Folks, brace yourselves because what I'm about to tell you is not just another headline. It's the story that could redefine everything we thought we knew about the universe. For months, astronomers have been tracking a celestial object known as ATL. At first, it seemed harmless, a comet, a traveler from the depths of space. But the deeper we looked, the more reality itself began to unravel. Three shocking discoveries have collided in a way that no one can explain, and all of them point to one terrifying possibility. Atlas might not be natural. It might be something else, something built. It started with the images. China's orbiters released a series of photographs that, once processed, showed something no one was ready to see. The object wasn't gray or dusty like the comets we've known for centuries. It glowed, an intense, unnatural blue. Not the kind of blue you get from frozen gases or sunlight bouncing off ice, but a blinding radiance that looked engineered. Scientists tried to dismiss it as optical distortion, but the numbers didn't lie. When they converted the images into a sequence, the object shimmered, twisted, and reflected light in ways that violated thermodynamics itself. Cold objects don't glow blue. That's Physics 101. It's like pulling an ice cube out of your freezer and watching it shine brighter than a tungsten bulb. It shouldn't happen. Yet, there it was, moving through space with a glow that mocked every law we've ever trusted. But it wasn't just the color. Zoom in close enough and you'd notice something else. Lines, structures, lateral patterns that don't belong on a natural body. Even at low resolution, they looked deliberate, like panels or framework, as if someone or something had built them. And that's when the panic began. The high-resolution images, the ones that could settle the debate, were locked away behind layers of government approval, bureaucratic red tape, papers unsigned, departments reviewing security protocols. It's as if someone had the cure for a global disease sealed in a vault and refused to open it because of missing paperwork. For scientists across the world, it felt like being chained inches away from the truth. Then came the second revelation, something far stranger. Astronomers began detecting other objects, smaller, fainter, moving through similar trajectories. They weren't random. They were coordinated almost as if they were following a pattern, a formation. They called them comparative comets, but deep down no one was convinced. Among the first to raise questions was a quiet observatory on the Crimean Peninsula, the Margot Observatory. Their instruments, fine-tuned for faint light detection, picked up behavior that mirrored Atlas with uncanny precision. Within hours, the news spread. Russia, Japan, Chile, Austria each confirmed it independently. It was no longer an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Between October 2nd and 3rd, as Atlas swung past Mars at an impossible distance of just 30 million kilometers, Chinese orbiters captured the most baffling data yet. The comet didn't just move, it accelerated, but not in the way comets should. Typically, comets gain speed when they eject gas, like a natural rocket engine. But for that to happen, Atlas would have needed to lose mass. A lot of mass. Calculations showed it would have to eject more than 5.5 billion tons of material in just a month. That's like evaporating an entire mountain, Mount Everest itself, into vapor in a few weeks. That explosion of gas would have lit up the solar system, visible from Earth, from every telescope. Yet there was nothing. No debris cloud, no emission, no trace. Dr. Avi Low, a physicist from Harvard, ran the numbers again. Using the principle of momentum conservation, a cornerstone of the universe itself, he came to a disturbing conclusion. For Atlas to accelerate without ejecting visible mass, there had to be another mechanism, something beyond gas or gravity. You can't break momentum, he said, unless something is pushing it from within. What could that be? The answer no one wanted to say out loud. Propulsion. The idea split the scientific community down the middle. Some called it nonsense. Space hysteria, they said. Others admitted it quietly. The data didn't fit any natural explanation. It was like watching a car accelerate without wheels turning, without an engine sound, without fuel. Either the physics was wrong or the object wasn't what it seemed. And then came the composition tests. When astronomers measured the light spectrum reflected from Atlas, the readings shocked even the skeptics. The ratio of nickel to iron didn't match any known natural source in the solar system. Instead, it matched something disturbingly familiar. Industrial alloys forged right here on Earth. The signature was unmistakable. Nickel separated from iron through refined electrolysis, a process that requires massive energy and precision machinery. In nature, these elements form together, bonded by the heart of dying stars, inseparable through billions of years. The only way to split them is through metallurgy, factories, furnaces, chemical processes. Finding that ratio out there in the void was like digging into a prehistoric fossil and pulling out a working microchip. You can invent all the cosmic coincidences you want, but the simplest explanation is clear. Someone built it. But if that wasn't enough, Atlas shattered one more rule of the universe. It was dry. Comets are supposed to be dirty snowballs, mostly water ice mixed with rock and dust. 80 to 90% water by mass, but ATL 4%. The rest metal, carbon, silicate. It was like finding an iceberg made almost entirely of steel. "Desert dry," one scientist whispered, staring at the readings. "It's not a comet. It's a shell." Then there was the light polarization data. The way sunlight bounced off its surface. No comet, asteroid, or natural body had ever shown such a pattern. The reflection twisted in impossible ways, producing what's known as extreme negative polarization. The only comparable behavior on record comes from artificial materials, those with specific crystalline alignments engineered in laboratories. Whatever Atlas was made of, it wasn't nature's work. Still, perhaps the most chilling clue wasn't in its structure, color, or behavior, but in its choreography. Every planet it passed, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, lined up in what could only be described as surgical precision, a cosmic ballet, timed down to fractions of a percent. And yet during the most critical moment, its closest point to the Sun, it vanished from our sight, completely invisible from Earth, as if it knew when to hide. Mathematicians ran the probabilities, the odds of such a perfect alignment happening naturally. 0.005%. That's 5 in 100,000. Like throwing 3 darts blindfolded and hitting 3 separate bull's eyes, while someone turns off the lights at the exact second you release. It doesn't happen by accident. And then one final twist that froze the blood of even the most rational minds. The direction Atlas came from matched precisely with the coordinates of the 1977 WOW signal, the mysterious radio transmission that to this day remains the most compelling potential evidence of extraterrestrial communication. Two phenomena separated by nearly 50 years, pointing to the same cosmic address. Now the countdown has begun. December 19, 2025, the day Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth at just 167 million miles. Every telescope on the planet will lock onto it. Hubble, James Webb, dozens of observatories around the world. The test will be simple but decisive. If Atlas truly ejected 5.5 billion tons of material to accelerate, the debris cloud must be there. If it's missing, if even the James Webb, the most sensitive eye humanity has ever built, cannot find it, then we'll be staring at the undeniable. Not a comet, not a rock, but a vessel, a creation, proof that we are not alone. So the stage is set. The evidence is mounting. 10 anomalies, 10 impossibilities stacked into one glowing enigma. Each on its own, improbable, together inconceivable. Yet Atlas is real. It's out there, moving through the void, silent and blue, carrying a secret that could either rewrite physics or history itself. And in a few short weeks, the truth will be revealed to every eye on Earth. When the first data from the observatories poured in, the world was already holding its breath. Every astronomer, every science channel, every late-night host was talking about one thing: Atlas. Was it a comet, a probe, or the greatest scientific misunderstanding of the century? But deep inside the control rooms, something else was brewing: unease. Because the numbers that were supposed to make sense didn't. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, teams were running trajectory simulations. They tried to make Atlas obey the math. They couldn't. No model, no combination of mass, density, gas jets, or gravitational assists could reproduce the acceleration it displayed. "It's like trying to fit lightning into an equation," one analyst said quietly. Across the Atlantic. In the European Space Eyes office in Darmstadt, engineers compared the motion to known propulsion profiles. The thrust pattern matched nothing natural. Instead, it looked eerily like a controlled vector. Precise bursts, rhythmic corrections, almost intentional steering. Meanwhile, the silence from government agencies was deafening. The high-resolution Chinese orbital images still hadn't been released. Insiders leaked that they showed surface panels and geometric symmetry, words that should never describe a comet. But the official line was unchanged. Atlas was under review. Data inconclusive. For scientists desperate for answers, it felt like watching history suffocate under red tape. Then came the broadcast that split the world. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb appeared on live television. Calm, direct, eyes locked on the camera. He said, "If Atlas is accelerating without mass loss, then we're not observing natural physics. We're observing technology." The studio went silent. It was the kind of sentence that could end a career or start a revolution. Within hours, social media exploded. Number Atlas propulsion trended in every language. Half the world mocked him. The other half whispered that he was right. And that whisper turned into a roar when the composition data dropped. Spectroscopic readings confirmed the nickel-iron ratio that only exists in industrial metallurgy. You could hear the shock in the announcer's voice as the results went public. This pattern doesn't occur naturally. The feed cut to images of molten metal factories and glowing crucibles, as if to remind viewers what it takes to create such materials on Earth. Somewhere out there in the black vacuum of space, an object carried the chemical fingerprints of industry. To the general public, it was thrilling. To physicists, it was horrifying because if this was true, it meant that the universe had other factories, other engineers, other hands. Every news outlet demanded answers. Some called Atlas a relic from an ancient civilization. Others labeled it a modern probe, an interstellar messenger that had finally reached us. But amid all the chaos, one fact remained certain. December 19th was approaching, and with it, the moment of truth. Around the world, observatories prepared for the most synchronized observation campaign in human history. The James Webb Space Telescope's instruments were calibrated to maximum sensitivity. Hubble's team prepared a schedule down to the millisecond. In Chile, Japan, Hawaii, and even Antarctica, telescopes aimed for the same patch of sky. The mission brief was simple: find the cloud. If Atlas had expelled 5.5 billion tons of gas to gain speed, that material had to be there, glowing, scattered, undeniable. If it wasn't, then everything changed. As scientists worked, conspiracy theories flourished. Anonymous sources claimed that defense satellites had already detected artificial radio emissions from Atlas. Others said an unidentified object had detached from it weeks earlier. Governments denied everything. The debate consumed the internet. Was Atlas watching us, or were we the ones being tested? In labs and lecture halls, the conflict between two scientific philosophies erupted. On one side stood the establishment, the guardians of caution, repeating that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. On the other, A growing faction led by Lowe insisted that ignoring data, just because it felt uncomfortable, was the real unscientific act. Every paradigm was born from doubt, he said in an interview. Galileo was ridiculed for saying Earth moves. Einstein was mocked for bending time. If we're afraid to be wrong, we'll never be right. His words spread like wildfire. Students quoted him. Journalists turned him into a symbol of rebellion, and memes of a glowing blue comet flooded every feed. But while the world argued, the universe kept moving. A TLA was approaching perihelion again, cutting through solar wind and radiation like a blade. Instruments picked up faint electromagnetic pulses trailing behind it. Regular, patterned, measured. Natural comets sputter and fade. This one pulsed with rhythm. "It's sending something," whispered a technician. No one could prove it, yet everyone felt it. A chill that ran deeper than fear. And then the strangest discovery of all. When scientists traced Atlas's trajectory backward, plotting every gravitational curve and deflection, the path intersected with the region of the 1977 WOW signal almost perfectly. The same cosmic coordinates, the same direction, as if the object had been traveling toward us for nearly 50 years. Coincidence? Maybe, but to those who believed, it was a message completing its journey at last. Night after night, people gathered in parks, rooftops, and deserts, staring up at the same dark sky. They weren't just waiting for data. They were waiting for an answer to a question older than civilization itself. Are we alone? What if the silence of the stars was never emptiness, but anticipation? In the weeks leading to December, tension reached a fever pitch. Scientists stopped sleeping. News anchors rehearsed how to announce the impossible. Governments prepared official statements, some cautious, others already defensive. If confirmed, one leaked memo read, "The event shall be classified as an extraordinary astronomical phenomenon with indeterminate origin." Even in denial, the wording betrayed fear. As the countdown began, people across the planet felt it. Something was coming. Atlas wasn't just a comet anymore. It had become a mirror reflecting humanity's own hunger for meaning. The mystery united skeptics and dreamers alike. For the first time in history, every telescope, every mind, every heartbeat was fixed on a single object drifting through space. And in the quiet moments before the observation, one truth became undeniable. Whatever Atlas turned out to be, the world would never think about the universe or itself the same way again. December 19th, 2025. The day the world stopped to stare at the sky. Across every continent, people gathered. Scientists in control rooms, families on rooftops, children clutching makeshift telescopes. Even those who didn't believe couldn't look away. The James Webb Space Telescope had been locked onto Atlas for 48 straight hours, its instruments humming in the cold silence of space. And then just after 300 hours UTC, the first signals began to arrive. At first, it was nothing but static noise from the solar wind. Then a sequence of data pulses, the reflection spectra Webb had captured. Analysts leaned in. The screens flickered with numbers, wavelengths, color intensities. Somewhere in that data lay the truth. Was Atlas natural, or was it something else entirely? The first confirmation came from Webb's spectrograph. There was no gas cloud. None. The empty void around Atlas was as clear as glass. The 5.5 billion tons of vapor that physics demanded simply didn't exist. The universe had broken its own rule book. The room went silent. A technician whispered, "That's impossible." And no one argued because if the gas wasn't there, it meant one thing. Atlas hadn't accelerated by ejecting mass. It had moved by choice. Then came the images. Grainy at first, sharpened frame by frame. The comet's so-called surface glinted with uniform brightness, reflecting light like brushed steel. Faint geometric lines appeared. Parallel edges, repeating angles. Webb's AI enhancement rendered them in real time, revealing what looked like an array. Hexagonal plates overlapping like armor. A natural comet doesn't have symmetry. A TLAS did. Perfect symmetry. The control room at NASA froze. Someone murmured, "It's not a comet." And another voice whispered back, "Then what is it?" As data continued streaming in, an unexpected signal appeared. A rhythmic electromagnetic pulse, faint but deliberate. Every 11 seconds, a burst. The pattern was mathematical, precise, echoing through the deep background like a heartbeat. Webb wasn't designed for radio reception, but its sensors picked it up anyway. Across the planet, other observatories confirmed the same rhythm. Identical timing, identical strength. It wasn't random. It was intentional. When the analysis team translated the pulse spacing into binary intervals, the result formed a repeating prime sequence. 2, 3, 5, 7. The universal language of mathematics, the signature of intelligence. The announcement hit the media before the agencies could contain it. News channels went live. Webb detects coded pulses from Atlas. No debris cloud found. Possible artificial origin. And in that instant, humanity crossed an invisible threshold. Governments scrambled to manage the chaos. Emergency press briefings were scheduled. Some officials urged calm, insisting the data might be misinterpreted. Others quietly activated communication networks reserved for global contingencies. But it was too late. The story had escaped gravity. Around the world, people wept, prayed, shouted. Churches filled overnight. Stock markets halted. Astronomers became celebrities and prophets in the same breath. Meanwhile, in a dim lab in Massachusetts, Avi Lowe stared at the data stream scrolling across his monitor. The numbers confirmed what he had risked his reputation to say. "It's propulsion," he whispered. "But not ours." Reporters crowded outside, waiting for a statement. When he finally spoke, his words echoed through every broadcast. "Today, physics has changed. Today, we are not the only engineers in the universe." As Webb continued observing, Atlas shifted again. Another acceleration, smooth and deliberate. It began veering slightly off its original path, angling upward relative to the ecliptic plane. Calculations showed it was moving away from the inner solar system, as if its mission was complete. Some called it retreat, others departure. But the signal, the 11-second heartbeat, continued. And then something no one expected. The pulses began to alter, compressing into a new rhythm, faster, more complex. Data analysts recognized repeating harmonics that resembled modulation, like a message encoded within a message. Radio observatories joined in, triangulating the source. The signal wasn't broadcasting outward. It was aimed directly toward Earth. At 8:47 UTC, the Deep Space Network received the same frequency. The waveform once decoded produced a geometric pattern. 10 concentric rings intersected by a single diagonal line. 10, the number of anomalies that had defined Atlas 1. The direction of motion, a signature, or a goodbye. Across the world, screens lit up with the image. It wasn't a language, not yet, but it was communication. Humanity had been acknowledged. Then, as the final pulses faded, Atlas brightened one last time, not with a random flicker of reflected sunlight, but with a rising, deliberate glow, deep blue, almost electric. For 13 minutes, the object blazed brighter than any comet ever recorded, visible even in daylight through filtered lenses. Spectrometers went wild. The energy output defied every known mechanism. And then, silence. The light collapsed, the signal stopped, and Atlas was gone. Not destroyed, not exploded, simply gone. In the aftermath, disbelief turned to awe. The world had no precedent for it. The United Nations convened an emergency assembly. Scientists debated new models of propulsion, gravitational manipulation, dark energy thrust, space-time curvature. None fit the data. The equations refused to close. The mystery remained intact, untamed, perfect. Weeks later, the official report from NASA, ESA, and CNSA was released jointly. It stated in cautious language that our atlas demonstrated anomalous properties inconsistent with natural cometary behavior and emitted a non-random electromagnetic sequence prior to its disappearance. The final line read simply, "Further study required," but everyone knew what it meant. Human history had a new dividing line before Atlas, after Atlas. Months passed and the world adapted. Some built religions around the event. Others returned to their lives, pretending it hadn't happened. But in the quiet corners of universities and observatories, a new generation of scientists began their work, no longer asking if we are alone, but who they are and why they reached out. Dr. Lowe continued his research, publishing what became known as the Atlas hypothesis, proposing that the object was an autonomous probe, a messenger sent to trigger recognition, not contact. He compared it to a cosmic lighthouse flashing once every civilization cycle to announce, "We were here." Years from now, textbooks will mark that December morning not as the day we discovered aliens, but as the day we rediscovered ourselves. Because when we looked at Atlas glowing blue against the void, we saw more than technology. We saw a mirror, a reflection of our own yearning to reach beyond fear, beyond isolation, into the infinite. The universe didn't feel empty anymore. It felt awake. And somewhere in that endless dark, perhaps far beyond our telescopes, another object is already on its way. Its signal quiet, its purpose unknown, its story waiting to unfold. For now we are left with the silence Atlas left behind. A silence filled not with doubt, but with possibility, the kind that changes.